Each year, thousands of people sign up to dating websites or download dating apps like Tinder and Bumble. All across the internet, you can find success stories and happy endings of those who met through dating apps. But you can also find some very scary online dating stories. Number 5. 29-year-old Sharon Searmans was described by those around her as kind, responsible, and hardworking. And following the breakdown of her relationship, she was working hard to ensure that her son had everything he needed. Following the breakup of her relationship with her son's father, Sharon opened up a nail business in her own home, allowing her to support and be there for her young son. In January of 2013, Sharon matched with Jason John Densley on the app Plenty of Fish, and the two immediately hit it off. Little did Sharon know that she had just matched with a known criminal, and her case would become one of Australia's most creepy dating stories. Between January 11th and January 19th, 2013, Sharon and Jason exchanged text messages after meeting on the dating app Plenty of Fish. The pair got on well, and after talking for a few days, they decided to meet up for a date. They met at a train station before heading back to Sharon's house for coffee and a chat. But the more Sharon got to know Jason, the stronger the uneasy feeling in her stomach grew. She texted her friend asking her to fake an emergency so that she would have an excuse to get Jason out of the house, telling her friend that he made her feel uncomfortable and on edge. She told her friend that the man in front of her was nothing like his profile and that he was dirty and smelly. Sensing that the two weren't going to be compatible after all, Sharon broke the news to Jason, and on the surface, he appeared to take things well. However, deep down, a fiery rage was building, and this rejection was the last straw for him. He later told investigators, quote, "I started thinking about all the times I've been rejected in the past, and it all just bubbled up." Sharon officially broke off contact with Jason on January 19th, 2013. Thinking that this would be the last time she would see or hear from him again. Sadly, Sharon was very wrong, and 3 months later, Jason would appear at her house once more with evil intentions. On the evening of April 6th, 2013, Jason broke into Sharon's home and attacked her, and minutes later she succumbed to her wounds. When Sharon didn't turn up to meet her friend Anne on April 6th, 2013, she knew that something was terribly wrong. Anne described Sharon as a responsible person who would always call and let her know if she couldn't make it. Anne drove to Sharon's house and was met with a chilling sight. The police were immediately called to the scene. However, nothing could be done for Sharon. The coroner recorded a verdict of homicide, and after examining Sharon's social media accounts and dating accounts, they came across Jason Densley. What Sharon hadn't told her friends and family was that Jason had sent threatening texts to her following their first meeting in January of 2013. Jason was infuriated that Sharon had rejected him, but she stood her ground and told him that there wouldn't be a second date. These texts were used in conjunction with forensic evidence during his trial, and it also transpired that Jason had over 140 convictions to his name. Some of these were minor offenses, but the others included charges of violence against women. In April of 2013, Jason was actually on parole for a violent charge, but his parole officer failed to pick up on any changes in his behavior or demeanor. For his crimes, Jason was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 32 years served. Number 4. In 2011, 45-year-old Carol Kemp matched with 43-year-old Martin Rustling on a dating website, and the two slowly built up a friendship that turned into a relationship. Carol was from Devon and hoped that dating websites would help her meet new people. Carol had spent the last 17 years caring for her mother and thought that it was time she branched out and lived her life. Little did Martin know that he had just matched with the wrong person and that his name would be splashed across the papers in one of the UK's scariest online dating stories. Carol and Martin's relationship seemed to be running smoothly over the course of 6 months. They became closer and began exploring their future together. However, 6 months into the relationship, Martin was beginning to have second thoughts, and during the Christmas season, he told Carol that he wasn't sure whether he wanted her to move in with him at his home on Park Road. This news infuriated Carol, and on December 28, 2011, she attacked Martin in a fit of rage. Carol thought that the relationship was going perfectly and saw no reason as to why she couldn't move in. She later contradicted herself when speaking to police, as she claimed that the attack had been an accident after she had tried to harm herself. Martin intervened, and according to Carol, everything spun out of control. Shortly after, the police were called to the scene, and Carol explained everything to them. Thankfully, they saw through her lies of it being an accident, and she was arrested and charged. In mid-2012, the case against Carol began with the prosecution stating that Martin Russling was well loved by his family and was popular with the residents of Portland. The prosecution also went on to explain to the court that Martin had never been aggressive towards Carol during their 6-month relationship, and that the attack was in response to rejection. A court-ordered psychiatrist commented that Carol had borderline personality disorder, adjustment disorder, depression, and emotional personality disorder. Following a 4-day trial, Judge Linda Dobbs found Carol Kemp guilty and sentenced her to life in prison with a minimum of 13 years. Carol Kemp will be eligible for parole in 2025. Number 3. 67-year-old Jet Jacobs of West Australia was slowly coming to terms with the loss of her husband. With her family around her, Jet was beginning to process her grief and signed herself up to a dating website in the hopes of finding love once more. While browsing through profiles and chatting to strangers, Jet met a Nigerian man by the name of Jesse Omako. Jet was immediately smitten by Jesse, and over the course of a few months, their relationship blossomed despite the time difference. Time went on, and Jet and Jesse's relationship grew stronger, despite the warnings from her family members. Her family were concerned not because she was dating someone halfway across the world, but because she had sent Jesse over $90,000 over the course of their relationship. Her family were worried that she was being taken advantage of, but this only pushed Jet further into the arms of her lover. In 2011, after meticulously planning, Jet flew to South Africa to meet with her boyfriend for the first time. She told her friends and family that her trip had been the best experience in her life, and that she would return to South Africa again very soon to tie the knot with Jesse. In 2013, Jet traveled to Africa once again to be with her love, only this time she never came back. Her son told the Daily Mail, quote, "Mom went over for a couple of months and didn't return. Fearing the worst, her family contacted authorities, and days later her body was discovered in the villa that she was renting. The coroner commented that she was deceased under suspicious circumstances, and that local police noted that money, credit cards, jewelry, her laptop, and other items were missing. What's more is that Jesse was nowhere to be found, and he quickly became the prime suspect. It took almost a year of searching, but in 2014, Jesse was located in Nigeria and arrested in connection with Jet's case. Since 2014, there have been no updates provided to the press, and Jesse's fate remains uncertain. Number 2. 35-year-old Venkata Kadamanchi from India moved to the United States in search of a better life and career prospects. Venkata found himself a job as a software engineer and was slowly beginning to build a life for himself. His colleagues said that he showed great potential and had a bright future ahead of him. Sadly, this was taken away from him on a warm summer's night in June of 2010. Venkata matched with 23-year-old Jessica Ermendinger online, and the pair exchanged a few messages before agreeing to meet up for what Venkata believed would be the first date of sorts. He drove to a nearby Wendy's restaurant in Southfield, Detroit, and met up with Jessica, with the two sitting down to eat and getting to know each other a bit. As the date progressed, Jessica suggested that they rent a motel room and spend the night together, to which Venkata agreed. The pair hopped into his car and drove to the Easy Rest Motel at around 2 a.m. As Venkata made his way to the motel room, he was met with a frightening sight. Jessica's boyfriend, James Randall, and 2 other male accomplices, Kevin Huffman and Lynn Coggins, were waiting for him, ambushing him and ordering him to hand over his personal belongings. It appears that Venkata cooperated with his attackers, but for some reason, they decided that robbery wasn't enough. They took Venkata's life and left him at the motel, where he was discovered hours later. For their involvement in the crime, Jessica Ermendinger and Lynn Coggins were sentenced to 15 to 30 years in prison, and James Randall and Kevin Huffman were given life without parole. Number 1. 27-year-old LeVar Watson was elated when he matched with 22-year-old Ashley Lavelle of Marion County, Florida on the website Plenty of Fish. LeVar had been in the US Army for the last 3 years and had served 2 tours in Iraq, and was looking to find love and settle down now that he had left the Army. The two agreed to meet on December 25, 2011 for their first date, and planned to drive around and get to know each other better to see if they were compatible. Also in the car with Ashley and LeVar that evening was 28-year-old Stephen Rupnarine. It may have appeared that Ashley had brought along a friend for safety reasons. However, the reason is much darker. Before meeting up with LeVar, Ashley and Stephen concocted a plan to rob LeVar and leave him on the side of the road, running away with the cash and bank cards that he was carrying. As the trio drove around, the plan slowly devolved from a simple robbery to something much darker. LeVar sat in the passenger seat with Stephen sitting in the back. As they were driving around, Stephen attacked LeVar from behind, and LeVar quickly succumbed to his injuries. Ashley and Stephen then rummaged through LeVar's pockets and took his wallet containing cash and bank cards along with his phone. They then left his body on 51st Avenue before driving away and going about their Christmas evening as if nothing had happened. The two may have gotten away with their crime if they hadn't used LeVar's credit card to purchase gas at a gas station in Summerfield, Florida. The duo was captured on CCTV making the purchase, and credit card statements matched this transaction. In exchange for her testimony against Stephen, Ashley Lavelle was sentenced to 20 years in prison. In 2003, residents of Florida were stunned to hear that Stephen Rupnarine was acquitted on all charges. This shocking ruling prompted a wave of outrage from LeVar's friends and family and the local community. Since this ruling in 2013, there have been few updates in the case, and the fate of Stephen remains unknown. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knots, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.